YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back. Today we're going over NFL free agents that I think are bigger free agents than what most people think. I think they're going to get paid more than what most people think here. So sneaky free agents to watch out for this offseason. They're also going to give you their landing spots, in my opinion, for free agency. Recent videos, very similar. We have a very recent one that's covering free agent sleepers and their landing spots as well. We have you covered for free agency. We have you covered for the draft, different trades that may go down, recent videos on that. We'll have you covered throughout the NFL Combine, which starts tomorrow. Every single day we'll have a winners and losers video for the Combine. We'll be talking live about that on our Twitter, so check that out. Link pinned in the comments for that. Make sure you like, subscribe to notifications on here on the channel so you don't miss any of those off-season videos. You can join our Discord, link down below for that as well. Our sponsors, you can find links down below. GLD Shop, Liquid IV, Walk the Mock. We have codes for all those sites. GLD Shop has some NFL jewelry. I'm currently wearing the Buffalo Bills helmet chain from there. They have all NFL teams and more. Links down below. Check it out. Twitter subs get bonus content as well. First one, JAWAAN Taylor, who's somewhat of a bigger name for free agency, but I think if you ask most people their thoughts on JAWAAN Taylor so far, they probably think he's been decent. He's been all right. Young tackle, been playing a little bit better. So maybe you don't put the biggest price tag on him, but he's going to get paid a lot more than what people are talking about right now. You're obviously signing, especially a young, 25 years old, the Jaguars right tackle here. I mean, you're paying this guy for the future, not just right now. So there's going to be, and the Jaguars actually still haven't used their franchise tag. They could use that. I was predicting they use it on Evan Engram. They could reach a deal on an extension with him. Maybe they tag Taylor instead. Tough decision for Jacksonville, but as of right now, no tag on Taylor. But somebody could just really offer a ridiculous amount because teams are desperate for tackles, and you got a solid young one that, where his ball is just his best ball is way ahead of him here. It's still in front of him, and that's a good sign here. So I think the top landing spot, I think the Jaguars would like him back. Maybe they let him walk and they put, Walker Little at right tackle. Maybe they put Cam Robinson at right tackle. Little had to fill in for Robinson that was at left tackle, though. So we'll see what they decide there. Maybe some chatter about potentially them getting Taylor back and moving on from Robinson and just having Walker Little start at left tackle. So multiple different scenarios for the Jags, who've been clearing space, and they're in the positive. Around $13 million, but then they're going to have to give, Ridley's cap hit's going to kick in once he's reinstated, and I expect that to happen. So then they'll have to clear some more space. They'll cut Shaq Griffin, I'd imagine. So we'll see. They're going to try to get Taylor back here, maybe backload that contract. Chicago Bears make sense as landing spot. They need a right tackle. I think they like Braxton Jones, who I like as well at left tackle. So looking for that right tackle to protect Justin Fields is pretty key here. And they have tons of money. They have the most cap space in football. So they should, I don't know if they'll be the biggest spenders. If you have the most cap space doesn't mean you're going to be the biggest spenders. It's all about what you're offering, who you're after, who they choose, because they can choose between multiple teams, whether they take less or more. But I'd imagine they'd be in a guy like JAWAAN Taylor because I think it's a good fit, especially because the Bears are still rebuilding, and getting a young guy that can be part of that rebuild, and they have a lot of cap space where they can potentially offer him a lot of money. I like to fit with the New England Patriots as well, who might need a pair of tackles, depending on what they do with Trent Brown there, but who's under contract still. But I think Taylor can fit in well at the right tackle position for them in this Bill O'Brien offense, and they have a good amount of cap space to spend as well. So those are my three favorite fits, and that included the kind of going back to the Jags there. But some other fits that make sense. The Jets could be looking for another tackle there. Obviously, George Fant, a free agent. Becton hasn't really worked out for them. He's been injured. Then Dwayne Brown, one more year on his deal. He's up there in age, so we'll see what they decide there. The Broncos could use a right tackle. Some talk about them moving on from Bulls, so they could use a left tackle as well. Raiders definitely could use a right tackle. They probably could use another guard as well. The Dolphins definitely can use a right tackle. That's kind of like that last piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, to that Dolphins offensive line to make it even better, because they took a little bit of a step up last year. And the Falcons, depending on what they do with Caleb McGarry, I think this is an upgrade, in my opinion. I know McGarry actually had a pretty good year. Before that, seen some injuries and some rough play. I like Taylor a lot more. So maybe the Falcons want an upgrade, and spend just a little bit more money. It's a possibility there. But I do really like those top three fits there. If he doesn't go back to the Jags, I'm keeping an eye on all the teams I listed, but the Bears and the Patriots mainly. Speaking of right tackles, But this is a guy that I could actually see playing left tackle, and that is Mike McGlinchey, who played right tackle with the San Francisco 49ers. He played left tackle at Notre Dame, though, 28 years old for this season. And you see the top 3 landing spots. What you do not see is his current team, the San Francisco 49ers. Just don't get the feeling he's going back there right now, especially what was said at the Combine, that he was a John Lynch was kind of saying if he doesn't get his market, basically if he doesn't get what he's worth. So they're basically saying what he's worth is too much. And the Niners actually have a decent amount of cap space for a contending team, so maybe they think it's going to be just a ridiculous amount, maybe more than what people are thinking right now is my thinking. I think he's going to get paid a good amount of same with Taylor, McGlinchey. I mean, these guys can get over $16 million. Maybe we're pushing over $18 million with McGlinchey. It's a possibility. I think this is kind of a beware. McGlinchey's been better than Taylor, but I love Taylor's upside. McGlinchey's a little bit of a beware one because 49ers offensive line, that scheme, I wonder how guys are going to be. I think he's still a good tackle. He's an upgrade for a lot of these teams, but if you're paying him like top tackle money, it's a little scary, in my opinion. But a good tackle overall. How will he be away from the 49ers? But the Bears, who I think they may prefer JAWAAN Taylor if they had a choice between Taylor and McGlinchey, and I would prefer Taylor for them too, just because they're younger, they're still growing, they're still kind of rebuilding. So could that Taylor be option A and McGlinchey be option B? Taylor could end up back with the Jags. McGlinchey more likely to end up on a new team. So I'd watch out for the Bears, who need a right tackle, who have a lot of spending money. And schematic-wise, I do think he'd be a fit. So that makes sense there. The Broncos, I like to fit in that Sean Payton offense. I think he'll value the tackle position. They may need 2. I think he'll definitely value the right tackle, what he had in Ramczyk and the Saints. I like McGlinchey as a fit. They need to make that offensive line better. Drew Brees was so good for him for so long because he's great. He was great. He's a Hall of Famer, but the offensive line protected him very well. So the Broncos don't have a ton of cap space right now, but I'd imagine they clear some, possibly trading a player or two, restructuring some contracts and making some cuts like Glasgow and maybe Darby. So the Broncos actually could have a good amount of cap space, believe it or not. And the same thing goes for the Dolphins, who are in the negative right now, but they'll restructure some contracts, which will free a lot of space. Byron Jones will be a post-June 1st cut, and then some other moves in there as well to clear some space. They'll actually have more than you think because restructuring some of those contracts will actually free a lot of space. And they need a right tackle, kind of last piece of that puzzle like I was talking about when we were talking about Taylor. But you kind of have a fit here as well. Mike McDaniel coming from the 49ers a year ago, and now with the Dolphins, and they did break the bank, if you will, at the tackle market last year with Teron Armstead, which kind of elevated their offensive line. Obviously, do they do it again to elevate even more, or are they? We have so much spent at that position, we don't want to spend. So maybe they get outbid, is what I'm saying. It's a possibility, but you like to fit with Mike McDaniel there, and they need a right tackle, and they'll actually have some decent amount of cap space once we get to free agency here. The Titans, I think the Titans would be a team where McGlinchey moves from right tackle to left tackle. I think they like Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, the rookie from last year, at right tackle, and they would like McGlinchey at left tackle. Perhaps maybe they flip those guys. Maybe McGlinchey stays at right tackle. Rand Carthen, 49ers background. He is now the Titans GM. Titans been freeing a lot of space, and the tackle play was the left tackle play mainly was just so bad last year. The offensive line play in general. So they could definitely, I think, focus on just making this offensive line better here. So that's why they make sense. I was very close to sneaking them in that top 3. It was a very tough decision between, and the Bears are easy to put in there because it's a need and they have all the cap space in the world. Doesn't mean they're going to get everybody, and they're pretty easy to put in there. But thinking about the other teams along with the Titans there, and then the Jets, have some 49er background guys as well. They brought in Laken Tomlinson in the past. Raiders could use a right tackle. Patriots, I think a guy like Taylor fits a little bit more. That's why I had JAWAAN Taylor in the top 3 for them. The Falcons, I see a fit if they lose Caleb McGarry. And then who knows? Maybe he goes back to 49ers, but it doesn't sound like it right now. It's only if he kind of gets less than what they think he'll get, and I think he'll get more. He might get more than what they think. That's kind of my thinking, the purpose of this video with these players in it. So it definitely one to watch. I'm just really curious. Taylor McGlinchey, 2 right tackles, top 20 free agents, at least on my board. Who do teams value more, because one's younger with more upside. I think McGlinchey's going to end up getting more money. I'm just curious to see who's kind of the winner in the right tackle, market there. And some teams might, they're going to strike out, so we'll see. Next up is another offensive lineman. This one a guard. It's Ben Powers of the Baltimore Ravens, who had a really good year last year. Physical interior offensive lineman, really good run blocker, decent pass protector as well, only getting better. The guard class for free agency, pretty thin. No one really talking about any of those guys. Maybe a little bit of talk about Isaac Sumalo, and you have Nate Davis from Tennessee in there. You have Dalton Reisner from the Broncos. Not a lot of chatter about Ben Powers, but teams may view him, the right teams may view him as the best out of all of them there with his upside, and recent solid play. And the Ravens would like him back. He really fits their scheme. I know they're switching to Todd Monken, but I think some similarities there. So I think they would like him back. And, there's some random people out there that think they're going to have no spending money because they got to pay Lamar. But they'll probably backload that contract. They'll still have some spending money this year, and they'll probably maybe move on from some guys or, trade. Could they trade anybody? We'll see. And they would like him back. I love the fit with the Buffalo Bills at the left guard position. They had Roger Saffold last year. It was a 1-year deal. And the offensive line in general, I'd say, besides Deion Dawkins, needs some work. In my opinion, they can live with Morse at center, but they also can live with, you can find a cheap center too that can do just as well, in my opinion. But they could use some guards. They can use a right tackle. I know they like the upside of Spencer Brown, but do they try to get better at all those spots? I like the fit with the Bills, blocking for Josh Allen up there, physical guard that could fit at left guard for them. We talk about Roger Saffold replacing him. Well, the Titans struggled to replace him when the Bills took him. And the Titans they need offensive line. They need tackles, they need guards. Nate Davis, a free agent, they probably need another one opposite Nate Davis as it was, so they might need two. So Powers makes some sense for them. Cardinals need 2 guards. I almost want to put the Cardinals at the top for any guards because they need 2 guards. They need a center. They're probably looking for young guys. I wonder about the fit, though. I think they're gonna go towards a West Coast style offense, a lot of outside zone. Ben Powers played that kind of power scheme there, like a man blocking scheme. So with the Ravens, so you kind of wonder about the fit. With a team like that, but they're just looking to get better in the interior offensive line. And then the Raiders could use another guard. I think you could fit Josh McDaniels' system there, offensive, the blocking scheme, I should say. Commanders can definitely use another guard. You look at the Bucs and the Rams, teams that really struggled at the position last year as well. A little thin on cap down there, though. But Powers I'm curious to see who's going to be the highest paid guard. Could be Power. I think Sumalo is probably the best bet, but the Eagles, the scheme and the talent around him, maybe teams a little worried about that. But Powers is a name that's not really being brought up, but watch out for a guy like that there in free agency. Receiver Jakobi Meyers. I think other people have kind of been talking about this too. Meyers might be asking for a lot of money, and he's arguably the best. Who's the most talented free agent receiver right now? It's probably not Meyers. You probably consider Judas Smith-Schuster. You might consider OBJ as well. You can't forget about him. But in terms of best free agent, I think that's a little different. You got to look out for the future there and the upside, and it could be Jakobi Meyers, only 26 years old. He did a really good job getting separation with the New England Patriots. Kind of being a possession receiver, getting moving the sticks. So only getting better, and they're a little limited in the passing game this year. And some receivers have been working out super well for the Patriots. They seem to be better elsewhere for some reason. Aguilar was better with the Raiders than he was with the Patriots too. That's kind of just one example. But so I think a lot of upside here. And he can, last year, he's not Christian Kirk. Let's be clear here. But because we knew Christian Kirk was really good. But that was kind of the surprise where, a team got desperate for a receiver. He got paid more than what we thought he would. He ended up playing to that potential, and he still got potential. So that's kind of what teams are looking out for. I think Meyers can kind of be, not as much as Kirk, but kind of be the Christian Kirk of this offseason. So somebody may overpay a little bit, but you get a young receiver with upside. I like him in the slot a lot. He played a little bit more than 50%, I want to say, of snaps in the slot, which is a lot. I like the Falcons more I think about it. Falcons have a lot of cap space. If there's a team that could, it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to overpay because you got to outbid some teams. So overpaying, it sounds like it's an awful thing to do. I guess if you're saying this team, and if we're looking back on a free agency and now we say this team overpaid, that's bad. But at the time of signing, overpaying sometimes isn't the worst thing because you got to get players. Sometimes you got to get better. You got to outbid other teams. You got to be better than those other teams. The Falcons are a team that could spend that a little extra money and kind of get that final piece of that puzzle of that unit. With which features two big body guys in Pitts and London, and you get a slot receiver like Jakobi Meyers for Arthur Smith. It's funny because I kind of look at him like a Corey Davis who played for Arthur Smith in Tennessee, who was kind of that bigger slot. Some of these slot receivers they used to be so small and shifty. Some of these guys got some size to them, like Juju's another one, like a big slot. Not that they're massive or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of Corey Davis, who Arthur Smith had and had playing well in Tennessee. Could Corey? I talked about that in the past. Could Corey Davis become available, whether it's trade or cut? I like the Falcons for him if it's a possibility. But here's another option here that maybe has some more upside for the Atlanta Falcons, who have a lot of spending money. I do like the Houston Texans as well. I think this kind of depends on John Mechie a little bit. Because I like him as kind of that new school type of slot receiver, which he was battling some health things last year, so he's supposed to come back this year. So it kind of depends on where they view him, because Bama sometimes viewed him outside, which I like him inside. But Brandon Cook's probably gone, and they just need, they have Nico Collins, but they just need better receivers anyway. So a guy like Myers, who's just going to get separation, going to get open, the Texans could be interested in that, and they have some spending money. And the more I think about it, the more I like the Green Bay Packers. They actually have some cap space now because they restructured a lot of money in some of these contracts, and they could end up trading Rodgers. That would clear some space. They could make some cuts, restructure some more contracts. That can clear some space. They want to see if Jordan Love's the real deal, a young quarterback that only could get better. So why not supply him with some receivers to help him improve? But young receivers that also can get better. So that made some sense to me. And Christian Watson's kind of an outside guy that's a little bit of a gadget guy. Then Romeo Doubs is an outside guy as well. These are guys that could play in a slot here in like a few snaps a game. And you have Lazard's a free agent. We'll see what they do with him. He's an outside guy as well. You'd think Randall Cobb might be done. So I like Myers in the slot for the Green Bay Packers. I think a good fit with Jordan Love, just getting a possession receiver on the inside there. It makes some sense, and now they have some cap space, so we can talk about the Packers a little more seriously with some of these guys. The Giants make sense as well. Originally, I liked the Giants towards the top, because they have a lot of space. They need receivers badly. There's not too many great options for out there. But yeah, again, more of a slot receiver. They were playing Wan'Dale Robinson there, which was very limited this year, obviously because of health. But so are they looking for more of an outside receiver? Are they going to be pretty stubborn when it comes to these receivers? I could see that as well. Titans could use another guy, of course. Ravens, my money would be more the Ravens looking for an outside guy. Definitely could be wrong on that. Then they like Duvernay on the inside, and Bateman has experience playing out and in. They could be looking for more of a outside guy, durable, contested catch outside guy, perhaps, or with some speed on him. Bears could look at another one. They have Claypool and Mooney. They could look at a guy like Myers. Raiders connection with Josh McDaniels helps. They do have Renfro, and Devontae Adams, obviously, and Waller. They have some targets. There's been some talk about some trades. I don't think Adams is traded, but the other guys. And then who knows? The Patriots could get him back. I think because his value is kind of going up, and because he could be more expensive than originally thought, I think that kind of makes it feel like the Patriots may not get him back. If he's more of a reasonable price for them, then yes. But I think he's going to be, again, that's this video, more expensive than what we're used to from these types of players, or what we expected. Marcus Davenport, talk about a couple pass rushers here. Marcus Davenport, the edge rusher from the Saints, was a very high draft pick for them. They traded up to get him in that draft, and was kind of a raw upside guy. And we've seen the flashes. He's he's been hurt here and there. When he's on the field, we've seen the flashes. Little bit underwhelming in terms of the production this year, I suppose. But again, you can see the flashes. You can see the upside here. He's just getting going. The edge rush group, free agency class, isn't that strong. This is probably the strongest of the group in terms of actual edge rushers. So he's going to end up getting paid based off of, teams like, all right, we need pass rushers. Do we want to rely on the draft? This is kind of the best option here. We like his upside. So those types of teams are going to pay him a lot of money, in my opinion. So I look at, there's a lot of teams that stand out. The teams we're going to talk about, but I'm kind of getting ready for my predictions that I do every year. And the two teams I'm back and forth on are the first two teams there with the Texans and the Falcons. And he very well could go to the Bears. He very well could go back to the Saints. You go to Sean Payton with the Broncos over there. Some other teams that could use a pass rusher are listed as well. But when I make my predictions, I make one team you got to predict, and I'm kind of back and forth with the Texans and the Falcons as of right now, who both need a pass rusher. I love the fit. Ryan Nielsen is the Falcons defensive coordinator, who's actually coming from the Saints. He's with the Saints for a while, so he was with them when they had to have Davenport in that draft out of Texas San Antonio, in the last few years. So he knows what he's about. He knows the upside, or maybe he could be a little cautious because he knows the injury concern. But they badly need a pass rusher. We know we know Davenport's going to fit that defense. The Falcons have a ton of spending money, so it makes sense for so many reasons there for Davenport and the Falcons. Love the fit. If for DeMeco Ryans' defense and the Texans, they have spending money. They need a pass rusher really badly. Or either of those teams going to take one with their the Texans, it would be the second one probably, first round pick possibility. But yeah, Ryan's defense, I love the fit. Again, it's Davenport. The more you realize, he's built like a 4-3 end, which he would play for these teams like the Texans. But yeah, DeMeco Ryans' defense, you kind of want to have an edge rusher stand up sometimes. He has him drop back. Sometimes that Leo position we've seen on the 49ers here and there. I think he can run that as well. So I do love the fit there, both those teams. But the Bears, I like the fit in Eberflus's defense. They have the spending money. They need defensive linemen. But yeah, the more I was thinking about it, I think he can fit kind of either scheme. We know the Seahawks, for an example, and the Panthers. Seahawks and the Panthers kind of adjusted to a more of a 3-4, which Davenport does feel like more of a 4-3 guy, but I think he can fit those defenses as well. But it's a guy that's going to get more money than you think. It is a little risky because he has some injury concern there, but a lot of upside. Another pass rusher, which could kind of be plan B after Marcus Davenport, if you're after him, a little bit different of a player. But he could be that next option. That's Arden Key, the pass rusher of the Jags, who will be 27 for this year, who the Jags actually rush from the inside a little bit too. So maybe not just an edge rusher. Apparently you can get a little creative with a guy like Arden Key, move him around a little bit. I think some of those were technically considered blitzes because he was kind of standing up on the inside sometimes for the Jags because they were rushing him, Trayvon Walker, who they moved around a little bit, and they had Josh Allen. So I guess a little versatile, a little bit with Arden Key here. Seems like he's only getting better. I have the Texans at the top here for him as well. I like the fit with DeMeco Ryans' defense. He actually played a year with the 49ers as well. And it's one of those guys where they can rush on the outside and rush on the inside. He's different than a guy like Arik Armstead, but because Armstead's a lot bigger, but they kind of used him rushing on the inside and the outside. So, looking for a guy that can do both. I do like Key a little bit more on the outside, where I like Armstead a little more on the inside. But you get the idea here. The Bears, I like the fact that he can rush on the inside and outside. I think they'll value that because I think Eberflus really values interior play. Even though mainly he's an outside guy again, but he can do a bit of both. So I think they'll value a young pass rusher like that a bit more. If they go for Davenport and miss, I can see the Bears landing Key. And the Jags could very well get him back. They have that unique play style because they have some versatile players. So they could feel that Key is just such a really good fit and he's only getting better. So they could bring him back. Falcons could be a plan B for Davenport. They could be in on some other guys. I like Key a little more for some of these other teams, but I do like it for the Falcons. Seattle, like to fit there. And with the other teams listed, some similar teams, we added the Browns and the Colts to the mix, where teams I can see maybe showing some interest there, looking for a pass rusher. So yeah, the pass rusher class, the edge class, I should say, isn't super strong, but you got some sneaky guys like Davenport and Key in there. And I guess Draymond Jones is more of an interior guy in my opinion, but if he goes to a 4-3 team, he'd be a 4-3 end, which would make him an edge rusher. So I guess if you want to factor in a guy like that, you could. But I do view him as more of an interior defensive lineman. And then one more, Bobby Okereke, the linebacker from the Colts. There you see the Bears again, a team with a lot of spending money, which I think could be very high on a guy like Okereke. And, a big factor there is Eberflus, the Colts background, and Okereke playing very, very well under him. And they are looking for, more of that weak side backer that can play that role, outside linebacker in a 4-3, somebody that can play that role. So that's kind of where I view Okereke. I view him going to a 4-3 team and playing outside linebacker. He's been a kind of a sneaky playmaker recently. Last few years, maybe an underrated player in a way. So I do like the Bears looking for a guy like that, young guy that can kind of fit what they're trying to do, like the retool, rebuild. They have the connection there. It's not a guy that's going to bring, get a insane amount of money, but maybe, it's not really getting talked about at all. He's not going to get that real cheap deal. He's going to get some money here, but he definitely can go back to the Colts because he's been a good playmaker for them. How they feel about Shaq Leonard coming back. I know last year was a rough year with the injuries. They have some other guys in there. Zaire Franklin's been playing pretty well, and then Speed, who's a free agent actually. So it just depends on what the Colts want to do. Would they rather save money, and use some of the other guys they have, or go the cheaper route? With free agency, sometimes in the past the Colts kind of been cheaper. They haven't really been cheap when it comes to trades, and then paying their own guys, they haven't really been cheap. But it's usually already paid those, like they already extended those guys. So interesting. I think maybe more likely the Bears, but that's gonna be a close one. And the Jets, I like to fit in Salah's defense at the outside linebacker spot. Quincy Williams, we'll see if they bring him back, obviously. But yeah, could use a guy like Okereke. I think he fits. Texans, Raiders, Commanders, Browns, Eagles. I think they fit all their defenses. I like the Eagles too, but I just with Gannon out and Sean Desai in, I'm trying to figure out how this defense is going to look. You would think they want to keep it a similar scheme because how well they played this year. In that case, I do think that would be actually a major upgrade from Kaiser Wyatt, who I wasn't really big on with that signing or his season this year. So even though Okereke is not this big-time player, I do think that's a pretty big upgrade. So I do like the fit there if they're kind of keeping things similar, which I would expect them to do. So that's kind of a sneaky team for Okereke. But yeah, kind of just looking at the Colts and the Bears mainly. Could go to the other teams, but you kind of have that Colts background in the Bears, so it kind of makes sense there. So we'll see. We saw the Bears pop up a lot in this video, but they have by far the most cap space football. They're trying to get better. It doesn't mean that, coincidence. We've seen the Colts a number of times with the most cap space in football, and they sit there and they don't do much at all. The fans are like, what are they doing? So I guess having the most cap space doesn't mean you're going to get everybody. You're going to get a bunch of guys even. Because it's not what it's about really, but the point of the Bears being in on a lot of these guys, they happen to be fits on a lot of these guys, and they'll be interested. They'll show interest. Will they win the bidding wars, or will they land these guys? To be determined, I suppose. But yeah, so really enjoyed making this video because these are some guys to look out for. Now you won't be super surprised. We could still be surprised. I could, even though I made a video on these guys, like they're going to get more money. You think they might get more money than I think. Deep down, I feel like that could happen. So I might even be surprised here coming up. So, but that's good. That's what makes it entertaining. The NFL offseason, especially these last couple of years. So we have similar videos like this already up on the channel, like the same format for my top 10 free agents. But some of those guys have changed since Derek Carr became a free agent, Bobby Wagner, and more. And then we have this same format on a sleeper free agent video, so you can check that out. Twitter subs get top 60 now, free agents with landing spots and more. We'll have my final predictions leading up to free agency, where guys will land, and we'll have you covered for the Combine. That's next on the list here at the Combine right around the corner. Hopefully you join us, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. Links you're looking for are going to be pinned in the comments. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.